unless you have a medical exemption, and that's all there is to worry about. So we're just on St Andrew's Square at the east end of Edinburgh's New Town. We call it the New Town, but it's actually more than 250 years old. The first brick was laid in 1767. By the mid-18th century, the old town had become very unpleasant, very cramped, overcrowded, and disease-ridden, not a nice place to live. The Lord Provost, or Mayor at the time, George Drummond, looked out across this vast expanse of land. To the north, it's difficult to imagine now, but everything around us was just empty farmland. He said, let's expand the city to the north. Straight ahead of us, this large Gothic tower is the Scott Monument, a monument to Sir Walter Scott. At 200 feet and 6 inches tall, the largest monument to a writer anywhere in the world. If you climb the 287 steps to the top, you'll get fantastic panoramic views of Edinburgh city centre. The Scott Monument was finished in 1846, designed by a man called George Meiklekin. Now turning on to Princey Street, and on the left we'll get views across the valley towards the old town. So everything over there is the old town, everything on the right is the new town. Coming up on the left we'll see the two gallery buildings, the Royal Scottish Academy in front and the Scottish National Gallery behind, both designed in a neo-classical style by William Henry Playfair, both contributing to one of Edinburgh's nicknames, the Athens of the North, contrasting with the other great nickname for the city, which is Auld Reekie, meaning old smelly. Now on the left, one of the highlights of the tour, we'll get views of Edinburgh Castle. Sat on top of its extinct volcanic plug. During the last ice age, a glacier flowed from the west, crashed head-on into the volcano and split in two, carving out the valleys on either side, leaving behind its crag and tail formation, steep cliffs on three sides of Castle Rock and a gentle slope off to the east. That was a trail of sediment dumped in the path of the glacier, down which the Royal Mile gradually evolved. So on the left, Princey Street Gardens. Beautiful idyllic place to go for a walk or a picnic when the sun's shining, and it wasn't always the case. This used to be the Nor Loch. The valley was flooded in the 1400s to form an extra defensive barrier for the castle and the old town. And over the years all the muck and filth and sewage of the old town flowed down the hill into the Nor Loch. It became very unpleasant indeed. Little more than an open sewer. Reports from the time say that a crust had formed on top, and inhaling the fumes would result in hallucinations. So thank goodness they drained it in the late 18th century. We have the gardens that we see today. We're about to turn on to Queensferry Street, helpfully telling us where we're going to end up. The Queen in the title is Queen Margaret, the wife of Malcolm III. Margaret was actually an Anglo-Saxon princess who arrived in Scotland as a refugee in the aftermath of the Norman conquest of England in 1066. And Malcolm III is the Malcolm from Macbeth. If you're familiar with the Shakespeare play, he's the Malcolm who assumes the throne after killing Macbeth at the end of the play. So that gives you some context to both Queen Margaret and Malcolm III. Queen Margaret is actually quite important to this tour, so I'll be mentioning her again as the tour progresses. Now coming up on the left, when we pass through the junction, you'll see the distinctive three spires of St Mary's Episcopal Cathedral. One larger and two smaller, and the two smaller spires are nicknamed Barbara and Mary, after Barbara and Mary Walker, two wealthy sisters who donated money towards the building of the cathedral. This area used to be known as the Walker Estate. The wealthy Walker family used to own a lot of land in this area. On the right we're passing Randolph Crescent, which is named after Sir Thomas Randolph, the Earl of Murray, who was the nephew of Robert the Bruce, and led a daring raid on Edinburgh Castle in 1314 before commanding one of the Scottish divisions at the Battle of Bannockburn later that year. We're about to cross over the Dean Bridge, and from the top deck we'll get fantastic views down onto the water of Leith in the Dean Village. The Dean Village actually began as an industrial milling town, but it's now a photographer's paradise. And the water of Leith is a fantastic place to go for walks. It's a little ribbon of oasis running through the city centre. So now we've left the Georgian new town behind and we're into the Victorian era. We'll start to see lots of bay windows and the tenements and townhouses on either side. The Victorians were very fond of their bay windows. There's a couple of reasons given for this. One is they were very nosy. They liked to be able to look up and down the street, see what their neighbours were getting up to. The other is they were very social, and these bay windows were great places for entertaining. And they could gather their friends for cocktail parties with their pinkies sticking in the air. And then on the right, if you glance down through the gap in the buildings coming up, you catch a glimpse of the spire of Fettes College in the distance. Fettes is often referred to as the Scottish Eton. Its former pupils include the former Prime Minister Tony Blair and the fictional spy James Bond. And now on the right we'll see a 1930s Art Deco style building. It's a feature of this tour, and we're going on a bit of a journey through the ages. So we've gone from the Georgian era to the Victorian era to the 1930s, and we'll continue that journey through the ages as we travel away from the city centre towards the outskirts. We'll be passing through different stages of the city's development. Coming up shortly on the left we'll see Stuart Melville College. Edinburgh has quite a few of these big posh private schools that look a bit more like castles or cathedrals. Most famously, probably we have George Heriot's School, which is said to have inspired Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So Stuart Melville College just coming up on the left. We might continue to catch glimpses of Fettes College as well down on the right. Now we're about to enter the 1950s as we continue our journey through the ages, so we'll start to see some 1950s bungalows. In the aftermath of the Second World War, there was a programme of slum clearance in the inner cities. So run-down parts of the city like the original Dumby Dykes estate were demolished and people moved to these bungalows in what was then the outskirts of the city. And coming up on the right, we'll see these bungalows stretching away into the distance. We'll see how extensive bungalow land really is. Quite an extensive period of development for the city. So that's bungalow land there over on the right. Pass through the Orchard Brae area. See Orchard Brae Park on either side.